everyone, and welcome to the Whole Wellness Mama Summit, where we're unlocking the healthiest, less stressed mom in you using strategies from various wellness experts. I'm your host, Amy Nesbitt, and I'm thrilled to be discussing the importance of teaching safety and advocacy skills to our kids, as well as for parents, with Irene Zande. She is the executive director and founder of Kidpower International, which is a global nonprofit leader dedicated to providing empowering and effective emotional safety, positive communication, child protection, and personal safety skills to millions of people of all ages, abilities, and walks of life worldwide since 1989. Kidpower and Safety Power workshops and educational resources prepare children, teens, and adults, including those with special needs, to prevent harm like bullying, abuse, kidnapping, and assault, and to create safe and strong relationships that increase resilience, protect mental health, and add joy and purpose to our lives. My kids took a Kidpower class during the pandemic. We found it to be really, really helpful, even though it was a virtual class, as a lot of things were. I appreciated how it brought really important topics of safety that we as parents worry about and that could be really scary, into something very practical and conversational for kids. I'll go into this a little bit later, but here's my safety comics that my kids were super excited to read through. And I truly believe our job as parents is to raise aware and confident kids, and this is fantastic for that. So welcome, Irene.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Some are meeting you for the very first time. I'd love for you to share your quick story about how you came to where you are now.
All right. So my whole career has been in doing community organizing. And I had just written a book called 1, 2, 3, The Toddler Years, which if I hadn't had Kid Power, I would probably be writing 19, 20, 21, The Letting Go Years. And however, in 1985, when my family was young, I took a field trip with 7 young girls, 7 years old, and my 4-year-old son. And a man got triggered by the sight of a mom with 8 young kids. And he started to follow us, saying I had all the cute children and he didn't have anybody. The kids were scared. So I said, hang on to me. And I crossed the street like an octopus with 8 little hands hanging on to me. When we got into the bus station, which was where was part of our adventure, then suddenly he charged into the room and he started yelling, I'm going to take one of these girls to be my bride. It was a classic case of the bystander effect because everybody froze except for me. And I did what I am positive you would do, Amy, and that anyone who cares about safety of kids, which would be anybody watching this video, would do. And I got in between the man and the kids, and I started to yell at him. The first words out of my mouth were you're not allowed to scare children, which is not the smartest thing I ever said in my life, but it was all I could think of. And he was yelling back. I could do what I want. I could say what I want. And finally, I turned to a bystander and I said, get over here and help me. Can't you see these kids are scared? And when he came to stand next to me, the man ran away. The kids were fine. I yelled, the bad guy ran. They had no problem, but I wasn't fine. I kept thinking, what if he knocked me down? What if he'd even tried to touch one of those children? And I knew I was going to do my best to stop him, but I wasn't sure how. So I took a self-defense class for myself, and then I realized I could not be with my children all the time. And what about the unprotected children that this man probably went on to assault? So I gathered as a community organizer with many wonderful people, educators, other parents, healthcare providers, mental health people, public safety officials, and we founded Kidpower as a nonprofit in 1989. Since then, as you said, we've reached millions of people all over the world. The heart of our program is practice. We don't just talk about problems. Talking about problems, explaining what to do raises awareness, but rehearsing what to say and do to take charge of your safety is what builds competence and confidence. Instead of using fear to teach about danger, we make it fun to learn to stay safe.
Yeah, I love so many things about that. I love that you said practice because like you said, you could freeze, right? If you don't practice these things, you just forget, what am I supposed to do in this situation? So the practicing and I, it's amazing that you did such a huge thing from one experience, right? I love that.
I didn't do it by myself. Lots of people help. And you're helping now just by sharing these skills and resources with so many people.
Well, I want to start at a very high level and talk about safety skills because, like you mentioned, in this first scenario of what you went through, right? Safety is something I worry about for myself as a woman, especially, as well as for my young kids for the times that I'm not with them, like you were mentioning, or just other kids, right? That maybe their parents can't be around as much, et cetera. So your organization has a lot of different offerings for various ages, but there are some common skills across all ages, correct? And can you talk about that and highlight some of the
Absolutely.
offerings for each age group?
Yes, the skills are the same from the time you're born and throughout our lives. What changes are some of our abilities and some of the kinds of problems that we might face. Awareness, even from shortly after a baby is born, as they start to develop the ability to see, they notice, where's food? Where's comfort? So just be an act aware, take charge, and get help. These are the core strategies under which fall a large number of skills. Even a young infant, they have the halt hand when they have enough to drink, and it's stop, right?
Mhm.
It's stop. Stop is a core skill. It's a boundary. It's taking charge. And we can teach even very young children to say, stop that game if they don't want to play. So noticing a safety problem or noticing something that's not right for you, being able to say or do something to address that, and then to know how to really be persistent in getting help.
I remember my kids would say, okay, or we would say, put up your fences if you don't,
That's
you
right.
know.
That's right. I had I was in an assisted living home doing a workshop, and this woman said, I am 94 years old. And this is the first time anyone has ever taught me about boundaries. And I'm so glad I'm learning it now.
Wow. Never too late to learn. And
It's not
it's
too
so
late,
right.
but we believe that the earliest teachable moment is the best teachable moment.
Absolutely. So people may be overwhelmed and wondering, okay, where do I start? Because safety covers such a range of topics. Where do you recommend parents to start? And I know you just said start earlier, but how young do you recommend people start to talk about some of these skills?
Well, we need to remember that kids learn more from what they see us doing than what we tell them to do. And so from the time they're born, and even many people believe before they're born, we are communicating with our children. We are showing them, if you're stressed, how do you calm down? Or do you lash out? Or do you move away? What choices are you making? If you're and the way we talk with them, see, treating them with respect while still being in charge, because we have to, they depend on us. We are modeling being powerful and respectful at the same time, and they see us doing it. As they get older, that's maybe as soon as they can hear a simple story, or as soon as they can and understand a story and maybe speak a couple sentences, you can start to rehearse with them. You can use their toys and say, checking first. It's a core skill for young children, because if they check first, they're safer. Check first before you open the door. Check first before you get out of your car seat. Check first before you go play with that squirrel in the park. Move away, go to your grown-up, check first. And you can practice that in a simple, fun way. And we have a coloring book that's free on our website in multiple languages. We have articles, we have low cost teaching materials. And so you can use those as aids in teaching. We also have our online learning center now, which has a bunch of courses for people. So there's lots of resources. But so if you're going to say, we have got a book called The Earliest Teachable Moment, which combines a number of our articles. But we also have the articles. If you just look up safety for young children on our website, we have a landing page.
I love that you make it so fun for kids. Like if people take the classes, you'll see it's very interactive and it's fun. The comic, as I showed, there's just different things to make it a lot more accessible for kids and for kids and parents to have that conversation. So I absolutely love that about
Oh, I'm so glad.
yeah. So if we dive a little deeper, for kids, sadly, encountering mean kids or bullying starts at a really early age. Can you share examples about some of the important skills taught even to our youngest kids for when some of these things happen?
It's amazing what children pick up because we start with kids about age 3. However, there was a 2.5-year-old along with a 5-year-old at a workshop that we did. And one of the skills we teach is because with bullying, a lot of it is about mean words. And so one of the skills we teach kids is to catch hurting words and make a trash can with your body, throw them away in the trash can, and put your hands on your heart and say something nice to yourself. So if I say, I'll just do this with you right now,
Yep.
you're going to catch the word stupid and you're going to throw it in your trash. Now put your hand on your heart and say, I'm smart.
I'm smart.
Yeah. So, and honestly, this skill, talk about a skill that we teach young kids, and then we realize we were using it ourselves as adults. We teach this to all ages now. Another skill is to interrupt busy adults and get help. Because if you can't protect your feelings or if somebody's picking on you, to move away. We can teach this to kids. I can put your hands up on the screen like this on one side of the screen. And imagine that these are two people. And maybe sometimes a friend is the one you're having fun. And suddenly the friend gets mad, starts throwing things or calls names and turns into a claw. So turn your hand into a claw. Now, if you stay next to a claw, you'll get clawed. If you claw back, you've got to fight. You can move away and get help. And then we have kids practice getting up and moving away with a puppet bothering them if they're young, or a person pretending to bother them, saying, hey, I'm going to get you if they're a little older. And then getting help, because a lot of times, how often do we say to kids, we think they know how to interrupt us, but we have a whole thing about when to wait and when to interrupt. Because a lot of times kids will wait when they're uncomfortable. And so they don't interrupt. You wait when you want something. You interrupt and get help when you have a safety problem. So we teach kids to say, put your hands out like this, like you're reaching out to somebody, and say, excuse me.
Excuse me.
I need help.
I need help.
And then we teach them to be persistent. So if somebody says, but I'm busy, say,
I'm busy.
yeah, say, I'm busy. Then you say, I see you're busy and I have a safety problem.
Oh, that was mine. I see you're busy, but I have a safety problem.
Or you say, this is about safety.
This is about safety.
And that is a signal to adults to pay attention. Of course, we have to teach kids not to misuse that too. Because there's any tool you give a child, they're going to experiment. It's normal.
Yeah. And I love the point that you just made about waiting. And then there's a time for waiting. There's a time for interrupting, because as moms, I think we often get the interrupting when it's not an emergency, right? When it's not anything that needs to be addressed right away. But giving them the
example
tool.
we give is like in a store, because you mentioned a store.
Mm-hmm.
If you get lost in a store, we have a whole safety plan about what to do, and an articles. Plus, we've got we have a free article. What if I get lost? But it's about If you go to the end of the line or the front of the line, kids will say the end of the line, and then we can make the point. You go to the end of the line when you want to buy something. You go to the front of the line and interrupt, and a small child might actually have to really reach up to the counter. If you have a safety problem, and being lost is a safety problem.
Absolutely. And I know you also teach, putting your arm right on or
Yes,
hand on someone's arm to
yes,
make sure you get the attention,
right,
and
to
there's just,
reach up and say,
yeah,
excuse me. Yes,
just various tools to give kids when there actually is a problem. And then, like you were also mentioning before, practicing it helps them not freak out when they're lost in a store or wherever, right? Those are
right.
some of the scariest moments for me. I think I've almost lost a child once or twice, like in a train station in San Francisco. It was one of the scariest moments of
Right.
my life.
And if you make a safety plan with them, and we teach kids as they get a little older to say, excuse me, what's our safety plan
Mm,
if we get lost here or separated from each other? I wanted to go back to the 2.5-year-old because after learning watching the trash can, this child broke her leg and had a cast, and some kids at her daycare were teasing her. And she said, stop. I am not letting your hurting words inside my body. 2.5 years old.
it's so powerful, right? To
Yeah.
give our kids those tools and allow them to express, because a lot of the times maybe they're just crying and we don't know how to help them. But if we give them the tools and the words, that's fantastic. I love hearing those stories. So there are also things I have become more aware of, like allowing my kids to have a choice in things like hugging people, which I am totally guilty of saying, go give grandma a hug, or a close family friend that we see all the time, instead of giving them the choice to do so. And that was something that was really brought to my attention as I was going through some of these courses with Kidpower. So, what are some other common things that you see parents should be aware of for helping our kids have better boundaries or decision making of their own?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that adult leadership is at the heart of child protection. We have to make sure that all the adults around the kids are on the same page with you. Anybody you're going to entrust with your child, whether it's grandma or it's a daycare or it's a play date or it's school, you have to make sure that those adults have the tools to recognize and stop unsafe or disrespectful behavior, and also to listen to kids, and to understand that touch for play, teasing, or affection should be the choice of each person. And we have safety signals that go with this to help people remember. Safety signals are simple gestures and words. So choice of each person. So put your two thumbs up like this, the choice of each person. And if this little thumb says, I want to play tag, and this thumb says, I don't want to, and this one goes up and says, you're it. Well, that was not the choice of each person. It shouldn't happen. Touch, games, or plays should be safe. Just hug yourself and say safe.
Safe.
They should be allowed by the adults in charge. This is a nodding head. It means allowed. And if it's not allowed, it won't happen. If you say, you can give kids examples of, is it allowed to play tag if everybody wants to outside? Yes. Is it safe to play tag in the street? No. Is it allowed to play tag at the dinner table? No. And it should not be a secret. Say not a secret.
Not a secret.
Teaching children not to keep secrets about games, play, gifts somebody gives them. It's different if it's a surprise party because everybody knows about it and it's not a surprise anymore. It's not a secret for long, even to the person getting surprised. But they should not have to keep secrets about gifts somebody else gives them. Anything about people in their private areas should not be a secret. And young kids and actually older kids too, and people with disabilities are very literal in their thinking. So we want to, if we say no one should ever touch your private areas, that's not true. They might need to be helped in the bathroom. They might need to be helped at the doctor. If they're a little older, they might fall in a sticker bush and need to have somebody pull stickers out of their bottom. We are very careful about how we explain the safety rules, including about private areas, and being very explicit about all these things that should not have to be a secret.
I really like that. Don't keep a secret, or it doesn't have to be a secret. Or wait, how do
It should not
it should
have to
never
be.
be a secret. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something should never be a secret.
Yeah.
Anything for young kids or for children as they're growing up. As they get older, then there are things that are private. And that's why I add the words have to. But if they are private, or as we're adults, we should not have to keep problems a secret. Any kind of problems, any kind of touch. We should not have to.
So I know there are many more in-depth courses for adults that cover huge topics that could keep people up at night. And I want to go see them. Like self-defense has been on my list of things. I know you
good.
mentioned it at the very beginning, that was one of the first things you did for yourself. But that is still on my list. There's also sexual abuse prevention. School shootings, I saw that one and I went, oh, well, sad that is something that we have to address. But amazing that you all have a resource for us parents, and advocating for our kids. These are all such important things to keep in mind, to apply the same core principles that we were just talking about to ourselves as parents, because there's a lot of overlap in how we keep ourselves safe and advocate for our loved ones, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Are there any of the courses that you'd like to highlight, or anything that you want to touch on for parents?
I would love for parents to take a look at our online learning center, where we have many, many workshops, courses that are recorded that you can do on your own time. Some of them are free. Some of them have a fee. We have a whole series of courses for teaching safety skills to teens and adults with intellectual disabilities or communication disabilities. We have mini lessons for teaching young children. We have classroom programs that you can give to teachers, or you can use yourself if you lead a youth group, for example. So I'd like people to be aware of because prior to the pandemic, we were going to be teaching about 10,000 people in California alone in person. It was not sustainable, though, and there were so many places where people wanted classes and couldn't get them. And so when we shifted to online, March 2020, then we had suddenly achieved what I call geographic freedom. People can look at our courses that are available, because the live courses, of course, people love them because they're interactive, like the one you took. They can be with your children. People can organize a course themselves to meet their specific needs as well. We also have a bunch in Spanish, and we're getting things in more and more languages, including we have somebody translating some of our resources into Japanese. So I just would like people to ask us questions. If you don't know where to go and you're overwhelmed and you have a specific problem, people write to us from all over the world to safety@kidpower.org, which is easy to remember. And it's about any kind of problem. Now, we don't provide therapy or legal advice, but we will make recommendations about how to get help.
I just love that it's for all ages, like completely for all ages. If you go to the website, there's just tons of resources, a lot of them free, like you mentioned. It's just out there. So thank you for sharing all of those.
Yes, and I do want to add, we do safety. We're doing more and more caregiver power type programs for people who are helping adults, such as aging parents or family members with disabilities, and they're supporting adults in being safe. So people should ask about, you're right, any age.
So I'd like to leave our moms with a quick action or challenge that people can perform today to start making changes and come back and ask questions or let us know how it went. So can you share your challenge for our mamas out there?
Yes. Our put safety first founding principle is that the safety and well-being of a child, and actually of all of us, are more important than anyone's embarrassment, inconvenience, or offense, more important than fame or fortune or pleasing somebody. And that's easy to say and hard to do. We say, of course, safety and well-being, especially of my kids, but by me too. And embarrassment, inconvenience, or offense on the, however, how many people hate to be embarrassed, don't want to embarrass others, don't want people mad at them, don't want to be bothered when they're busy. That's the challenge. So your challenge is to notice when uncomfortable feelings or wanting to make something happen or wanting to please somebody gets in the way of the safety and well-being of yourself or of your children, and to take action by saying something, even if it's really uncomfortable, and somebody might be mad at you, by leaving and taking a break for a while, or if you don't know what to do, by getting help. And we are happy to be one of the ways that you can get help.
That's a great challenge. I was thinking right now of how many times do I go, oh, what are people going to think, or all of that. So,
and it's
guilty.
protecting your time on your job too. It's when your boss comes in and says, you got to do this now, and you've got family. And it's hard sometimes to say, I've got to take care of my child, or what can I stop doing? And so it's important to realize that when you set a boundary like that, it is normal for people to react negatively at first. I always say to people, how many of you don't like being told what to do? People say, I don't. Everyone, right. And so you have to be prepared, not just to set boundaries or to advocate for yourself or your child, but to persist. We really, one of the books, our most recent book for parents and everybody, is Doing Right by Our Kids and Protecting Child Safety at All Levels. And this book really, makes the point about advocating for kids and applying that in all sorts of settings, starting from young kids and family and friends, all the way to dealing with college and governments. Is we've got to be able to be persistent in setting boundaries and in getting help.
And I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that you work with organizations, schools, and you do workshops with people, right? So I think that's a fantastic offering as well.
Families, yeah. Most of our workshops are online now because we had such a huge explosion, and of requests for online. Mm-hmm. And we can do something with we can often, private families will organize a workshop. And that lets us do it anywhere on your schedule. We do some places where we have enough instructors available, we can do something in person, but far more often, like 99% of what we're doing is online now.
And that was a silver lining of the pandemic, right? I know you had mentioned that, but it was a crazy time, but things opened up for everyone around the world, which is fantastic to have these resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you have a fabulous free gift for everyone too. Can you share what that is and how people can connect with you further? I know you've mentioned your message.
Okay, so this is our Kidpower book for caring adults. It's huge, but it's full of stories. It's got lots of pictures, and and so we have it in our online learning center, available electronically. If you email me at safety@kidpower.org, then, and say that you are, come from the Whole Mama's Wellness Conference. If I said that right?
Whole Wellness Mama's Summit.
Okay. Yeah. then or from Amy or from Choose Joy, then we will give you 100% discount code to access the book. And when it's online, another online benefit, it's easy to search for specific areas. It covers bullying, abuse. It's the most comprehensive guide available. It's what I I wrote it as if I was having a parent education workshop that could go on for weeks. But it's got very tangible practices you can use. It addresses a large number of issues.
That's so amazing. And I love the searchable feature because I would want to look at all the things, but I know myself and it is, like you said, very comprehensive and huge. And you'd
Yeah.
want to be able to go search specific things as they come up in the future, right? So thank you so much for offering that. That is fantastic.
Of
Anything
course.
else you want to share with our mamas before we wrap
Uh,
up?
well, this has been a wonderful interview. I just again want to encourage people to get in touch with us and to let us know if you have questions. Often people say, "Oh, there's a broken link." And I go, "Oh, thank you. Tell us, how we can help." And I just want to thank you, Amy, for creating this amazing opportunity for people that you value and work that you value to be shared with so many communities. It's really important. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. I know we mamas need to stick together. Us parents need to stick together, right? There's so much to learn all the time, and we all want to help be better parents and keep our kids safer. So, thank you, Irene, for sharing such practical information for a huge topic that is crucial to teach our kids. There are so many courses and resources for all ages, and many of them are free, like we mentioned. So go check that out. Grab that freebie. Drop those questions because we're doing live Q&As. Tell us how the challenge went, and we will see you back for more amazing summit speakers.